The war had been burning across the stars for years. Every species in the galaxy had joined one side or the other. The Vorak Empire had fought many enemies. But now, they had a new ally: humans. Rumors about them had spread like wildfire. "They are dangerous," some said. "They laugh at death," others whispered. The stories made the Vorak soldiers uneasy. Zirak, a young Vorak soldier, stood near the landing zone on a ruined planet. Black smoke curled up into the sky. The ground was broken with craters. The air smelled of metal and fire. He adjusted his armor, his claws tapping nervously on the rifle. "Where are they?" he muttered. The human soldiers were supposed to arrive 10 minutes ago. The enemy could attack at any moment. A Vorak officer beside him grunted. "Humans are never on time. Maybe they don't care if we live or die." Zirak frowned but stayed silent. He had never met a human before. He didn't know what to expect. Then, through the smoke, he saw shapes moving. Tall figures walked towards them. They wore no heavy armor, only light gear. Some had weapons slung over their shoulders. One carried a metal box. As they came closer, Zirak's jaw tightened. They were smiling. Here, in the middle of a battlefield, the one in front had a scar running from his eyebrow to his cheek. His eyes were sharp, but his expression was almost relaxed. He stopped in front of Zirak, dropped the metal box on the ground and opened it. Inside were packs of food. "Snack break before the fun starts," the man said, tossing a pack to one of his soldiers. Zirak stared. "Fun?" he asked slowly. "Do you call war fun?" The man looked at him and grinned. "Not war. The part where they realized they picked the wrong fight." Before Zirak could reply, a voice crackled through the comms. "Enemy forces approaching." From the east, heavy weapons. The Vorak soldiers tensed. They moved to cover, rifles ready. But the humans didn't take cover. They stood there, listening. One woman tilted her head as if hearing music. Zirak whispered to the human captain, "We should hide until they pass." The captain smirked. "Hide? No, we go to them." Zirak blinked. "That is suicide." The captain's voice dropped, cold and certain. "No, that is how we win." They began moving, stepping out from the ruined buildings into open streets. Zirak followed, his heart pounding. In the distance, he heard the sound of enemy engines, then gunfire. The Vorak soldiers instinctively dove behind broken walls. Zirak looked around, expecting the humans to do the same. They didn't. Instead, they ran towards the shooting. The sound of their boots echoed on the cracked pavement. One human threw away his rifle and pulled out a knife. Zirak's breath caught. "What are you doing?" The human with the knife shouted back, making them afraid. Bullets tore through the air. The humans shouted, not in fear, but in a strange mix of laughter and rage. The enemy fire became scattered, confused. Zirak risked a glance over the rubble. The humans had closed the distance, fighting in a blur of movement. One leaped over a wall, knife flashing. Another threw a small device that exploded with a blinding flash, making the enemy scramble in panic. Within minutes, the enemy began to retreat. Zirak stood frozen. The Vorak soldiers emerged slowly from hiding. The street was littered with enemy weapons. A few humans walked back, breathing hard but grinning as if they had just finished a training drill. The human captain wiped dust from his face. "Easy work," he said. Zirak finally found his voice. "You could have been killed," the captain gave a short laugh. "We all die someday. But if they fear us, they won't try again." Zirak's claws tightened on his rifle. He had fought in many battles, but he had never seen anything like this. These humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to break the enemy's spirit. The captain stepped closer, his gaze steady. "Stay close, Vorak. You're going to see something you'll never forget." Zirak wasn't sure if that was a promise or a warning. The sky rumbled, distant thunder, or maybe artillery. The humans began checking their gear. One woman tied a strip of red cloth around her arm. Another reloaded his weapon with a calm, practiced motion. Zerak asked quietly, "Aren't you afraid?" The woman looked at him with a strange smile. "Fear is good. It keeps you alive, but we prefer to give it to the other side." Her words stayed in Zerak's mind. Give fear to the other side. He wasn't sure if that was courage or madness. Signal came through the comms again. "Enemy regrouping, incoming in 2 minutes." The Vorak officer ordered, "Positions, we'll defend from here." But the human captain shook his head. "No, we meet them halfway." Zerak's heart thudded. "You're serious?" The captain gave a slow nod. "Always." The humans started moving again, disappearing into the smoke-filled streets. Zerak hesitated, then followed. His instincts told him this was dangerous, reckless, but something about their confidence pulled him in. They reached a crossroad, and the enemy appeared, a larger force than before. Weapons ready, eyes searching, the humans didn't wait. They charged. The sudden roar of their voices echoed off the ruins, a terrifying sound that made even Zerak flinch. The enemy wavered, taken aback by the speed and ferocity of the attack. Zerak found himself fighting alongside them, covering their flanks. He saw the enemy falter, dropping weapons, retreating under the sheer aggression. Within moments, the battle was over. The enemy was gone, leaving only silence and the smell of smoke. The captain looked around, satisfied. "That's how it's done." Zerak stood breathing heavily, his mind spinning. This wasn't strategy. This wasn't the careful, calculated fighting he had been taught. This was something else. Something wild and unstoppable. As they began moving back to the base, Zerak knew one thing for certain. Fighting alongside humans was not like fighting with anyone else. It was terrifying. And strangely, it felt like victory. And deep inside he wondered, how far were these humans willing to go? The city lay in ruins. Buildings were broken, windows shattered, and the air was thick with dust and smoke. Zerak stepped carefully over the cracked road, his armor scraping softly against the rubble. The silence felt heavy, too heavy. It was the kind of silence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "Stay close," the human captain said, his voice low but steady. "This place hides more than broken walls." Zerak nodded, gripping his rifle tighter. He could see the other Vorak soldiers moving cautiously behind him, their eyes scanning every shadow. "Why don't you hide?" Zerak asked quietly. "We should stay under cover until we know what's out there." The captain glanced at him, a sharp smile flashing across his face. "Hiding won't save us here. The enemy knows these ruins better than we do. We make them afraid, make them move first." Zerak frowned, "But charging blindly into the open, it's madness." The captain shrugged. "Madness is sometimes the best plan." They moved forward, deeper into the city's broken heart. The silence was broken by a distant thud, like something heavy falling. The humans stopped. Their eyes searched the shadows. Suddenly, a group of enemy soldiers burst from behind a toppled wall. Gunfire erupted instantly. The Vorak soldiers ducked behind what cover they could find. Zerak's heart pounded as bullets whizzed past. "Hold the line!" the Vorak officer shouted. But the humans? They didn't hide. Instead, they ran straight into the chaos. Their footsteps echoed on cracked pavement, their voices ringing out like a war chant. Zerak watched in disbelief as one human threw a grenade, laughing. Another swung a heavy pipe like a club, smashing through enemy defenses. "Why do they fight like this?" Zerak whispered to a fellow soldier. "Because they don't just want to survive," the soldier answered. "They want to break their enemies." Zerak's eyes followed the human captain. He moved fast, striking with precise blows, shouting commands that rallied his men. Suddenly, the enemy began to falter. Confusion spread across their ranks. Some dropped their weapons and ran. "Fear," the human captain said to Zerak as he passed by. "Fear is the deadliest weapon we have." Zerak swallowed hard. The enemy was retreating. faster than he had ever seen. Then, from the sky, came the thunder of enemy reinforcements. Heavy vehicles rolled through the streets, crushing rubble beneath them. "Back to cover," Zerak ordered, but the humans just smiled. The captain stood in the open, arms wide. "Let them come," he said. "We're ready." Zerak shook his head. "You're crazy." "Maybe," the captain admitted. "But it works." The enemy vehicles slowed, unsure of how to attack. The humans shouted and charged again, throwing stones, fire, anything they could find. The enemy drivers panicked, turning their machines around and fleeing. Zerak was amazed. These humans fought not just with weapons, but with chaos itself. The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The streets grew quiet again. The humans gathered around the captain, breathing heavily but laughing. Zerak approached. "How do you do it? How can you be so fearless?" The captain looked at him, eyes bright. "Because fear doesn't control us. We control fear." Zerak nodded slowly, a new understanding growing inside him. This was no ordinary fight. It was a war of wills, and humans were masters of it. As they moved forward, deeper into the city, Zerak wondered what else he would learn fighting alongside these strange, fearless warriors. The dust had barely settled from the last fight, when the human captain called his squad together. Zerak watched as the humans gathered with quiet confidence, their eyes sharp and focused. The Vorak soldiers were exhausted but alert, wondering what the next move would be. "We don't wait for them to come to us," the captain said, voice low but steady. "We take the fight to them." Zerak frowned. "But the enemy has more numbers. This sounds like a death sentence." The captain shrugged, almost amused. "Maybe, or maybe it's the only way to win." Zerak felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were not like anyone he had fought with before. Their courage sometimes seemed more like madness. As they moved forward, the enemy forces appeared on the horizon, more soldiers than before, their weapons gleaming in the dim light. The Vorak soldiers took cover, rifles ready, but the humans stayed standing, calm, as if they were waiting for a celebration. One human soldier turned to Zerak, grinning. "Watch closely. You won't believe what happens next." Without warning, the humans surged forward. No hesitation, no fear, just pure, raw energy. They ran straight into the enemy lines. Zerak gasped. "They're running into gunfire. They're going to die." But the humans laughed and shouted. Their noise was a strange kind of battle cry, wild and free. They moved like a storm, fast and unpredictable. The enemy faltered, confused by the sudden attack. Some fired wildly, others dropped their weapons and fled. Zerak found himself caught up in the charge. His instincts screamed to pull back, but something in the human's fierce joy pulled him forward. One human threw a grenade, the explosion lighting the dark street. Another swung a heavy chain, breaking shields and scattering enemies. "Why do you do this?" Zerak asked the captain as they fought side by side. The captain's eyes burned with intensity. "Because fear is a weapon. We give it to them before they can use it on us." Zerak nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his mind. The battle was over almost as fast as it began. The enemy was gone, their spirit broken. The humans cheered, their laughter echoing through the ruins. Zerak breathed heavily, feeling alive, in a way he never had before. The captain clapped him on the shoulder. "Welcome to the impossible charge." The sun had set hours ago, leaving the ruined city swallowed by thick darkness. Zerak and the squad made their camp in the remains of an old building. Fires flickered low, casting shadows on cracked walls. The humans moved with ease, preparing weapons and sharing quiet jokes. Zerak, still uneasy, scanned the night sky. The silence was too deep, almost unnatural. One of the humans, a woman with sharp eyes, noticed Zerak's tension. "First night in the ruins?" she asked softly. Zerak nodded. "It feels wrong, like something is watching us." She smiled, lighting a small fire. "That's the war talking. You learn to listen." Suddenly, the air shifted. A faint noise came from the Shadows, a whisper of movement. Zerak's heart quickened. "Enemy!" The captain stood alert. "Quiet! Get ready!" Without warning, a volley of arrows streaked through the night. The Vorak soldiers dove for cover, but the humans reacted instantly. They didn't hide. Instead, they moved silently, blending with the darkness. Zerak watched as one human disappeared into the shadows, then returned with an enemy scout's bow. Another mimicked the enemy's strange calls, low animal sounds that echoed eerily. The attackers faltered, confused by the sudden sounds in the dark. "How do you do that?" Zerak whispered. "The woman smiled grimly. "Hunt or be hunted." The ambush grew fiercer. More enemies appeared, trying to surround them, but the humans fought like shadows, silent, swift, and deadly. Zerak saw them strike without hesitation, their weapons flashing and disappearing into the dark. One human soldier, covered in blood but calm, approached Zerak. "Hungry?" he asked, offering a small piece of dried meat. Zerak blinked, surprised by the strange calmness amid chaos. The captain shouted, "Hold your ground! Don't let them see fear!" Hours passed, the fight never stopping. The Vorak soldiers struggled to keep up, but the humans thrived in the darkness. When the attackers finally fled, the humans gathered again around the fire. Zerak felt a mix of awe and fear. This was not just fighting. It was a war in the mind, using silence and surprise as weapons. The captain looked at Zerak and said, "Tonight you saw a glimpse of why we survive." Zerak nodded slowly, understanding that with humans, terror was not only in battle, it was a tool they wielded like a blade. The campfire crackled softly in the cold night. Zerak sat beside the human captain, still thinking about the ambush that had just ended. Around them, other humans shared stories, laughter mixing with the flickering flames. The Vorak soldiers kept their weapons close, watching but curious. Zerak finally broke the silence. "How do you do it? How do you stay so calm in the middle of danger?" The captain looked into the fire, his eyes reflecting the light. "We don't fight just to win," he said slowly. "We fight to break the enemy's hope." Zerak frowned. "Break hope? What does that mean?" The captain smiled faintly. "Imagine you are the enemy. You see us charging at you, laughing, not afraid to die. You don't just see soldiers, you see a storm coming for you. That storm is us, and it carries fear. When fear grows inside you, you lose strength, lose will to fight." A woman nearby nodded. "We tell stories of survival, of battles won when all seemed lost. That keeps us strong. Fear tries to control us, but we use it against others." Zerak listened carefully. This was different from the disciplined, ordered fighting he knew. It was a war of minds as much as weapons. Suddenly, the captain's voice lowered. "But sometimes the real fight is inside your head, the fear you fight within yourself." Zerak looked at him, surprised. "You mean you are scared too?" The captain laughed softly. "Of course, fear is part of us, but we do not run from it. We use it. We turn it into strength." Zerak felt a strange respect growing. These humans were fearless, not because they lacked fear, but because they controlled it. A sudden noise broke the quiet. Distant explosions. The captain stood, eyes sharp again. "The enemy thinks this night is over, but we know better." He looked at Zerak. "Rest now. Tomorrow we fight again, with our minds and our hearts." Zerak nodded, ready for whatever came next. He knew he was learning something more than battle tactics. He was learning the human way, a way that made them terrifying and unstoppable. The sky was dark, but the horizon glowed with the fires of war. The final battle was coming, and everyone knew it. Zerak stood beside the human captain, his heart pounding in his chest. The Vorak soldiers formed a strong wall of defense, their weapons ready, but the humans, calm, confident, walked toward the front lines as if they were going to a celebration. The captain turned to Zerak. "This fight will decide everything," he said. We don't hide behind walls. We face them head-on. Zerak swallowed hard. But they have more soldiers, more weapons. We could be crushed. The captain smiled, sharp and certain. Then we make them afraid. We break their spirit before the fight begins. The enemy forces appeared, larger than before, their heavy weapons aimed and ready. The Vorak soldiers raised, their rifles waiting for the attack. Zerak felt tension like never before. Suddenly the humans stepped out from behind the defense line, walking openly toward the enemy. Their voices rose in loud war cries, wild and free. Zerak's comrades gasped, watching the humans' strange boldness. The enemy hesitated, unsure how to respond. The humans moved fast, striking without fear. One threw a fiery bomb that exploded near the enemy's command post. Others shouted, waving their weapons and advancing steadily. The enemy ranks wavered. Confused and scared, some soldiers dropped their weapons, others ran. Zerak found himself fighting beside the humans. He covered their flanks, firing at the retreating enemy. The humans' wild energy infected him. He felt alive, fearless. The captain shouted, "Now! Show them who we are!" With a final roar, the humans charged harder. The enemy broke completely, fleeing into the night. When silence returned, Zerak looked around. The battle was won. But at a heavy cost, many humans and Vorak were wounded. The captain approached Zerak, his face tired but proud. "You fought well. This is what it means to stand with humans." Zerak nodded, feeling respect and wonder. He had seen fear, courage, and something more, an unbreakable spirit that no enemy could defeat. As the fires burned low, Zerak knew this was only the beginning. With humans by his side, the impossible became real. The battle was over, but the air still hung heavy with smoke and pain. Zerak moved slowly through the ruins, watching soldiers tend to their wounds. Humans and Vorak alike bore cuts and bruises, some limping, others silent and tired. The victory was theirs, but it had come at a steep price. A human soldier sat on a broken wall, his arm wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. He cracked a small smile as a comrade handed him water. "Pain is just proof we're still alive," he said. Softly, Zerak approached the human captain, who was helping a wounded Vorak soldier. The captain's face was tired but calm. "We won the fight, but lost many good people," Zerak said quietly. The captain nodded. "War always takes more than we want to give, but we don't let that break us." Zerak looked around. Humans joked and laughed even in pain, treating wounds like minor annoyances. "How do you do that?" Zerak asked. "How do you stay so strong?" The captain looked at him, eyes steady. "Because breaking is easy. The hard part is standing. Again, that's what makes us different." Nearby, a woman bandaged her own leg, then looked up. "We've been through worse. It's the fear of losing that hurts most. But once you face it, it loses power." Zerak realized this was not just physical pain. It was a battle of the spirit. Suddenly, a young human soldier limped over. "Captain," he said, voice low, "there's a problem. Enemy scouts are near the base." The captain's calm eyes sharpened. "Again? They think we're weak?" Zerak felt the tension rise once more. The war was not over, but now he understood. The real victory was not just in battle. It was in never giving up, no matter the cost. The captain smiled faintly. "Come on, Vorak. Let's show them the price of crossing us." The night was colder than before. Zerak stood at the edge of the battlefield, the silence broken only by distant echoes of past fights. The humans prepared for what they called the final mission, a suicide operation deep behind enemy lines. Yet they moved with calm, as if walking to a festival, not to death. The human captain looked at Zerak and said, "Tonight, you'll see the real meaning of terror." Zerak's heart raced. "You mean the enemy's terror?" The captain nodded. "Yes, but also ours." As they moved forward, the enemy forces surrounded a narrow valley. The humans did not hide or sneak. They walked openly, talking and laughing, carrying simple weapons, no heavy armor. Their strange calmness unnerved Zerak. From the shadows, enemy scouts watched nervously. They whispered among themselves, eyes wide with fear. When the humans stepped into the open, the enemy soldiers dropped their weapons and fled in panic. Before the fight even began, Zerak couldn't believe his eyes. "They're afraid of us?" The captain smiled, cold and steady. "Not us. What we represent. We bring a terror deeper than bullets." Suddenly, the humans charged with a roar, unstoppable and wild. The enemy ran for their lives, dropping everything behind them. In the chaos, Zerak saw something new. The enemy's fear was so strong it broke their minds. No weapon could match it. When the battle ended, the humans gathered around the captain. Zerak stood quietly, overwhelmed. The captain said softly, "I stood side by side with humans, and I understood. We don't just fight wars, we end them." Zerak knew then that this was more than bravery. It was a power born from the soul, pure terror for those who dared oppose them.